Everything is connected. Don't believe me? Let me illustrate for you. Let's take a random example. How about water? Because that's something we've definitely all interacted with. So water rains from the sky, which means it's related to atmospheric science. It means that when you fly a plane, you have to consider how much humidity there is. It means when we consider ACs, we have to know how much humidity there is because it changes the way temperature feels. But water is also something that we need to drink and to survive, right? So a doctor needs to know how much water there needs to be in a body. A biologist needs to know how much needs to be in a cell. And you, the average person, need to know how much water you need to drink to survive. And if you think about city planning, then cities are built along water lines. And that was incredibly important before we had fast transportation, like say trains and cars, because you needed water to grow plants. Water sustains all food. And I go on about this forever, but fine, you might say, okay, water is related to everything. But what about something like, I don't know, a job application? Okay, so a job application, right? There's a million different ways to do them, but let's say we take one very specific thing, right? A job application on Indeed. If you can't tell, that's something I'm working on right now. The job application on Indeed, right? That website built by somebody, and then those people had job requirements that they needed to fulfill. That job application was coded by somebody, it was written by somebody, it's overseen by someone who works in HR, and all of those people were hired by someone else that lives in this, we'll say, hierarchy within a company, right? Those companies interact on an economic level with the US, with every other country, because even if their money doesn't go to another country, the money that they put in the US then gets traded somewhere else, right? And that contributes to inflation. So now you've drawn in economists. Inflation affects the everyday taxpayer, and it affects everyone who spends money on anything, because your money is constantly losing value unless you're investing it. Well, now that invested money is going to someone else. That invested money gets put into companies and letting them grow. If you have companies that grow, in theory, you have more new innovative products, right? And on the other end, the people who are applying, right, they have an entire background. You could go with a microscopic lens in the other direction, right? Let's break down one person. They have family, they've got friends, they've got lifestyle, they've got the type of food that they eat, the culture that they come from, which indicates the type of food that they eat often, or they've got a good reason not to eat it. They've got the type of place that they live, which will probably be influenced by where they grew up and what their parents did. So there's a million different dichotomies, a million different breakdowns of this. And then you might say, okay, well, now we've talked about finance and about science, right? But what about everyone else? Well, everyone else is connected to the same economy, right? We're connected to the same world, to each other, right? We're all humans, so we interact as humans do. And there's a couple of, like, we'll say social laws about that, right? But it's, if we interact, like say we ask for something, we either expect to receive it or not to receive it. And so that's like an expected outcome, right? And say we take the decision further, right? The idea of like, oh, we pass on a good deed. We do something nice for someone who then is like, has an elevated state where they're motivated to do something for someone else, motivated to do something for someone else, and it creates this ripple effect. And now a single action has impact far beyond what you could have seen or just the people you interacted with. And every part of this works together, right? You've got transportation that takes people, poor or rich, from one place to another, and then they start a new life, or they just visit, and while they're visiting, their dollars pay for something in that economy. They get to try new food, and then they are like, oh, I like that food, I need to find it at home. That gives somebody a reason to open a food shop that sells that there. You know, whatever you like. If there's a type of art you like, you're contributing to it just by visiting a museum, because now it's like, okay, this museum survives, the type of artwork that's in it now becomes more representative of the type of artwork that's available in real life. You know, and if you're doing, say, like sanitation management, or you're delivering mail, right? These are things that, like, you are greatly affecting everybody. Everybody pretty much everybody interacts with sanitation worker in some way, because we all produce waste, whether it's literal excrement from our bodies or it's trash that we produce. And if you don't produce trash, then you're doing something with it, which is then working on the other end, right, with all, say, the environmentalists that are working with sanitation management to figure out how to reduce emissions, how to reduce waste. You're contributing to what they do. You're being the model citizen for what they look at when they're like, how do we make something better? Everybody interacts with everybody. You cannot avoid it. And if you want a better example, look at Facebook, right? Regardless of if you're on it or not, we all know someone who's on it. We are all affected by the information that gets put on there, whether it affects an election or data collection, or if it just affects what type of things we like to buy. And advertisements do that too. So truly, this is an infinite topic because we're talking about the entire world at once. But it's fascinating because it gives us insight to there are real consequences for every action you make, and every inaction you make is still a choice. You cannot choose to do nothing. By doing nothing, you allow your health to waste away. You become sad. It's not like you just lie in stasis. When you sleep more, you are not doing nothing. Your body is more rested or it's over-rested. But you are not doing nothing. You cannot stop breathing and continue to survive. You cannot stop eating and continue to survive. And this might be overwhelming. Maybe, depends where you are in life, but it's also maybe good to know that your body does most of these things automatically. Most of the processing you have to do about thinking, what are the effects of my actions? Your brain does that automatically. You don't need to spend any seconds or any energy thinking about that. It just happens. And that is so incredibly important that we're able to subsist in a world that mostly runs itself. There's plenty more I'd like to talk about this. My dad just got home and the garage is gonna make a lot of noise, so we'll end it here. But I hope that this is giving you guys some food for thought, and leave your thoughts in the comments. See you guys next time.